I knew I had won the second that tow truck eased to a stop in front of Cheryl Whitmore's perfect suburban palace, and the officer hand resting on his belt told her in front of half the neighborhood, "Ma'am, the unit is on your property under your contract. There is no crime here," while that ugly green Porta-Potty sat like a trophy on her spotless lawn, and she looked at me like I had burned down her kingdom. In that moment, something reset inside me, like I had stepped out of being the guy. Everyone pushed around, and into someone who finally said enough. If you are wondering how a quiet, rule-following guy ended up flipping an entire HOA on its head, let me take you back. My name is Mark Lewis. Late 40s, I run a small renovation crew. Nothing fancy. Not rich, just a guy who works with his hands and pays what he owes. And for most of my life, people with titles have talked down to people like me. Like we are background noise. You know what I mean. After my divorce and a string of rentals with landlords who acted like I should be grateful for leaky ceilings, I finally scraped together enough to buy something of my own. A scrubby vacant lot in a place called Silver Pine Meadows, HOA community, outside Fort Collins. Picture perfect in the brochure. My lot was the one eyesore on the street. Waist-high weeds, broken concrete, rusted posts, and old tire half buried in the dirt. But when I first stood there, I saw the little house I was going to build myself a porch, where my daughter could drink hot chocolate at Christmas walls nobody could hike the rent on. That half-acre was not just a parcel. It was the first time in a long time I felt like I had a future. So I did what decent people do when they do not want trouble. I read the HOA handbook like it was a job manual. No noise before 8 a.m. No work after 6 p.m. No Sunday hammering. Keep materials neat. Submit forms. First Saturday, 9:15 a.m., I roll up with my trailer. Just me clearing brush, hauling limbs, stacking junk. Neat by the curb, inside the 4-hour rule, feeling good that I'm fixing what everyone else ignored. Then I hear heels on pavement behind me, sharp controlled, and I already know this is the part of the story where the problem walks in. "You must be Mark," she says. Mid-50s, stiff blonde bob. Pastel cardigan, pearl earrings, white binder hugged to her chest. "I'm Cheryl HOA president. We have very high standards here." I tell her I read the book I am just cleaning. She slowly scans my truck, the dirt, the branches. "Silver Pine Meadows is a visually cohesive community," she recites. "Sudden disruptive activity can concern residents." I say, "It has been an abandoned junkyard for years." She smiles tight. "People tolerate what they are used to. Change is different." I ask, "Who is concerned?" She says, "As HOA president, residents confide in me. That information is confidential." Turns on her heel and leaves me standing there with a rake like a kid outside the principal's office. 3 days later. First letter. Nice logo, stern wording. "Violation construction debris, visible from street beyond 4-hour limit. Fine $100. Stapled photo my neat stack of branches. I am irritated, but I tell myself, show good faith, and I pay it. Yeah, that happened. After that, the letters start breeding. Vehicle intruding into common easement. Non-compliant safety cone color. 75. Failure to submit Form C-19 prior to removal of dead tree stump. 200. All signed with that blue looping Cheryl L. Whitmore president. Every time I see her, she drops a line like, "Rules protect everyone's property value." I'm sure you understand, with a smile that says she enjoys this. Once those envelopes start arriving, people look at you different, skip one payment, and suddenly you are the guy who doesn't pay. So I bend over backward, park perfect stop early, keep logs and photos, and somehow there is always something wrong. With each notice, I feel smaller on my own dirt. Then, one Tuesday, I pull up and hit the brake. In the dead center of my lot, not by the sidewalk, not out of the way, but right where I pictured my living room, stands a bright green Porta-Potty sun bouncing off it like a spotlight. I just sit there and laugh that tired laugh you let out when you know someone is messing with you on purpose. I call the number on the side. The rep looks up. The order tells me, 6-month rental. Silver Pine Meadows HOA for worker sanitation compliance. I tell him I am one guy with a rake. He says if the HOA ordered it, they are the client, they control it. So I walk down to Cheryl's porch and ring. She opens already wearing that polite smile. Cheryl, there's a porta-potty in the middle of my property, I say. Yes, she chirps. We received complaints your site lacked proper facilities. Section 14.3 requires sanitation prior to ongoing work. I took the initiative. There is no ongoing work, I tell her. I'm cleaning. She shrugs. Then you're ahead of schedule. You're welcome. I say, it's clearly there to embarrass me. Her eyes get colder. If you wish to relocate an authorized unit, submit Form 7B. The board will review it at our next meeting in 4 weeks. That is when anger turns into clarity. This was never about paint and grass. It was about control, about making an example out of the new guy. Old me might have swallowed it, but that plastic box sitting like a throne on my dream was the last straw. That night I pulled out a cheap printer and started doing something people like Cheryl count on guys like me not doing. I read every notice, every bylaw, every city code, every email, and when I got the Porta-Potty paperwork from the company, I read that too. The rental agreement was not in the HOA's name. It was in Cheryl L. Whitmore, individual account personal card. Their terms said the account holder had authority over placement and relocation as long as it was legal. Our bylaws said any expense over $500 had to be approved and recorded. There was no record of this anywhere. So let me spell that out. She used that toilet to humiliate me while pretending it was official. But on paper, it was hers. She wanted power without accountability. Once I saw that the fear flipped into something sharper. I called my cousin Dan, who runs a towing and equipment company. I need you to look at some documents, I said. He comes over, spreads everything out, reads in silence. So this thing is technically hers, he asks. According to them, yeah, I say. And if we move it, then we're relocating her property. I tell him to a more appropriate spot. He gives me that slow grin. All right, but we do it clean. We pick a quiet morning, 4:30 a.m. Sky just starting to gray. Dan backs the flatbed up. We strap the unit, lift it smooth, no damage, and roll down Silver Pine. Cheryl's lawn looks like a golf course. We set that porta-potty just inside her property line, not blocking anything, not touching a neighbor's yard, standing there like a monument. I take photos of the stakes, the placement, the contract, with her name not out of fear, but to be exact. Then we drive off. My heart is pounding, but under it, there is this calm. Like for once, I am not waiting for permission to exist. At 7:02 a.m., I am parked up the street with gas station coffee watching. Cheryl steps out in a navy suit, heels ticking, sees it, and stops. Then she explodes. She is on the phone, pacing, waving at the unit at my lot. A patrol car rolls up. The officer listens, then walks over to me because, of course, she pointed. I hand him the folder. He reads, nods, once goes back to her. And on that perfect driveway, loud enough for the neighbors pretending not to eavesdrop, he says, "Ma'am, this unit is on your property, and the lease is in your name. This is a civil issue, not criminal." You can feel the spell break. Her face goes red. Her voice drops. People start texting each other. That afternoon, we get an email. Emergency HOA meeting. The clubhouse is packed. Cheryl sits at the head with her binder, and stiff smile talks about harassment and attacks on community order, tries to paint me as a problem. When she calls on me, I walk up, put the papers down, and in a steady voice lay it out. The pattern of citations, the Porta-Potty in her name, the missing approvals, the bylaws. I'm not performing, I'm just done staying quiet. Board member Frank asks, "Why wasn't this processed through the association?" Cheryl laughs, thin, says she fronted it. Priya, the treasurer, checks her laptop. "There is no record of that," she says. That's the twist. The room turns. Neighbors raise their hands. Stories come pouring out. Fines for kids' bikes. Threats over flower pots. Different rules for Cheryl's friends. People realize it has not been the HOA. It has been one woman using letterhead to push people around. They vote that night independent audit. Cheryl's authority suspended recall, election scheduled. I leave not gloating, just lighter. A few weeks later, the results hit. Cheryl loses the recall in a landslide. The preliminary audit finds irregularities big enough to send to the county. One morning, the Porta-Potty is gone, hauled off without ceremony. Cheryl stops showing up. I see her once in sweats, head down. For a second, I almost feel bad. Then I remember how small she made everyone feel. I go back to my lot measure footing lines, picture walls going up. And for the first time since I bought that dirt, I feel like I belong on it. So now I will throw this to you, because this is where people split. Did I go too far, giving her a taste of her own rules? Or was that the only way to hold someone like that accountable? Where is the line between protecting a neighborhood and bullying behind policy? Have you ever had a Cheryl in your life? An HOA, a boss, some petty official, who hid behind rules when what they really liked was power? Tell me in the comments what you think, what you've seen, what you would have done. Hit like if you think power should never be one-sided, subscribe. If you want more real stories from people who stopped letting themselves be pushed aside, and let me know. Was that Porta-Potty on the wrong lawn, or exactly where it needed to be?